Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the OD Sportscast. I am your host, Dak.
And I am Oliver.
And today we got a very heavy basketball impact episode for you today. But before we get into that, we're going to go right into our first topic, and that being that renowned golfer, goat of golf himself or what many say he is the goat of golf, is Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods on what was it? On Friday. On Friday was arrested in a high-speed car crash after he was charged with a DUI. According to ESPN, the accident occurred around 2 p.m. Eastern time. He was on suspicion of a misdemeanor, a DUI with property damage, but he refused to submit to a lawful test. He arrived to the jail around 3 p.m. and was released on bail later that Friday. A spokesperson with Martins County Sheriff's Office, Florida law requires that he spend at least 8 hours in jail before he could post bail, but I guess he must have been released on bail pretty early. So I also saw something where the sheriff was like, we don't care who you are or how famous you are, you're still going to be under the law whether you like it or not. And I saw some pretty nasty photos of Tiger Woods, being disappointing himself after he got released from the jail that night or that afternoon, of how he got arrested and all that. So, I mean, Oliver, what do you think about, the great Tiger Woods being arrested in another DUI accident?
Well, first of all, I guess I would say I do feel bad for him, and that's not a great thing to go for. Obviously, he is responsible for what he did. Tiger Woods clearly has a problem with drinking and substances. Like, this isn't his first time he's gone a DUI, gone arrested. I know about like 10 years ago or whatever, he was in a similar situation where he got a big scandal. I think it was one a DUI, but also was sort of a cheating scandal. So clearly, he's not a saint by any means. And he does have a substance problem, and I think he should get all the help he needs, go into rehab, whatever. I don't know what to do about it right now, but I think clearly he's gone back into it somehow. And I mean, what you said about like how he's going to be prosecuted, no one's above the law, and I think he should be treated just like everyone else. I don't know really what he could do himself. Me, I think step away from golf a little bit. I don't know. He's been golf's top person for many years now. And I mean, I don't know how he is as a golfer nowadays. But I don't know. I feel like his time is getting near the end. I feel
Getting
like
close. Do you think he should be on the midst of retirement now that he's kind of having this whole drinking issue come into play?
Yeah, I mean, he's since his first DUI, he's been a very controversial figure. And now that it's happened again, I think it's safe to say that he's not quite seen as a great guy anymore. And he should I think just for his sake, not to ruin himself anymore, he should step away from golf. I'm sure that's not what he wants to do. I mean, golf is his life, and I know. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not. I don't watch golf that off. I don't watch golf, and I doubt many other people do. But I do know it's one of those sports where you could be in it for a while. It is an old person sport after all. But anyway, so I don't think he would want to quit, and I'm sure he's would want to continue playing for a while longer. I think it's in his best interest is at it. Oh my god, if he at least takes a break for like a season or whatnot and gets rehab or whatnot. Because I mean, it's clear that it's not a one-time thing.
No,
He has a problem.
he has a
You
problem.
don't see many cases of athletes getting DUIs or getting arrested like several times in their career while they're actively playing. I mean, it happens, but I mean, Tiger Woods is one of the most famous cases of a professional athlete just being in so much drama and scandals and being arrested so much.
So that was part of the dear viewers. This was part of the car crash that happened on on Friday, where it kind of tipped off to the side a little bit and
Yeah, I mean,
caused some pretty bad damage. So
it does seem like it's definitely not the way to drive. I mean, I don't know how to put it, but
no,
like that's
right.
definitely not good.
Right. Like, I mean, like you said, that this wasn't his first time around with the DUI charge. His first one was all the way back in May of 2017. And arrested in a Jupiter after police found him asleep in the wheel while his car was running, which had two flat tires and damage on the front and rear bumpers. That's very, very fun. Oh, yeah, very fun.
Yeah, so I mean, he's been having a drinking problem for almost a decade now. Probably more than a decade.
More than a decade, yeah.
He's probably been drinking fucking forever. I mean, listen, I don't know how much of his personal life is out there. We probably don't know how much he's had a alcohol problem, but yeah, I feel bad for him. I encourage him to get the help he needs. Means stepping away. It's fine. He's already rich AF, so it's not
Yeah.
like he'd be losing that much.
True. That's very
So
true.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope he finds the help that he needs, but until then, we'll just have to see what happens. So, God for a speedy recovery for him, and
hmm
hopefully he can stop having these drinking issues and be sober.
Yeah, I mean, we got to root for him. And that's
Yeah.
really the best we could do in these types of situations.
Well, onto another note. We are going now to our first basketball topic of this episode, wonderful viewers. The NBA had their annual Board of Governors meeting that was held past Monday. All of these votes won't be formal until May, however, but they are in the early stages of talking about it. So on Monday, Adam Silver sat behind his, annual podium after they were done talking about it at the beginning processes of the Board of Governors meeting. And ESPN's Shams Charania has reported that the league has come up with 3 different tanking ideas to combat the whole to combat the tanking that's currently happening, in which teams should, be competitive in a sense to where they aren't just going for the first overall pick, right? You want your team to still be competitive and at least still have a meaning of, like, say, the play in. And just like all that and above, because like take an example of a few teams this season that have been tanking, like the Jazz, the Grizzlies, the Bucks, even though they're kind of in a messy situation with the whole Giannis thing. Like, where's he gonna go? uh, and so on, so much more. Um, and I mean, yeah, I mean, one of the 3 proposals they had proposed in the tanking idea or during the meeting was number 1, 18 teams, the bottom 10 that missed the play-in entirely, uh, and the 8 that qualify for it will be part of the draft lottery. The bottom 10 teams will have an 8% chance of moving up in the lottery, while the remaining 20% of odds are going to be split among the 8 teams in descending order from picks 11 through 18. All 18 spots would be drawn as part of the lottery in that form. So what do we think about this first proposal the league has come up with, Oliver?
Well, it seems kind of similar to, ju- it's kind of in a way broadening what the lottery is used for or flattening it, bringing more teams in. I I would generally support this, um, because I one, it kind of flattens out. So, like, if you're really deep into it, there's not really any reason to go any deeper. But including more teams, I'm not sure how to really feel about that because I know there's a concern where if you include more teams and more opportunities to really jump up in the lottery, then it's just going to encourage even more teams just to stay within that range, thereby almost increasing the problem. So, like in this, if you're like a 7, if you're like dangling on a 6 seed, and like the team's like, oh, we have no there's no chance we're contenders. They could just purposely tank a little bit and make the play-in, but also the lottery at the same time, which I feel like would be a win-win in a case. So maybe now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm not sure how I'd feel about this. I'm not that much of a fan.
Second thoughts
Yeah, well,
on the
yeah,
first
I
proposal?
was thinking it out while I was saying it, but
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that the league is now proposing ideas for the
oh yeah,
tanking
absolutely. I
because
mean,
they're already going out of their way to make billions of dollars, to like Seattle and Las Vegas of the expansion that's supposedly coming. This is just a nice, easy first forward step that could happen, so that when those teams do come into the league, if they so choose, to do so, then it raises the question: are those teams, even though they're going to be starting out, are they going to be purposefully taking later on as they get, like, say, good all-star players or whatnot? But who knows?
I mean, yeah, we discussed how tanking and expansion goes hand in hand last week. But yeah, for the cases of this solution, I think it would just encourage more teams to stay within a certain quota. But again, it still flattens it at an equal 8%, which kind of it reduces like the whole tank off situation where like the two worst teams are competing to be really bad, which in a sense I do like. Now the thing is, it's difficult to say how that would actually affect things because let's say you are a really terrible team, you're the worst team in the league, and you are like it's already halfway through the season and you have no chances of even making the play-in, no matter even if a miracle were to happen, right? Would that encourage them to just do better? I don't think so. I think if you're low enough, there's no incentive to be like, but just for the fans, we're gonna win a couple more games and not be the worst team in the league. Like I think as soon as you're in the quota to possibly get a good draft pick, I feel like there's not much incentive to get out of there, if that makes sense, or even
No, that
like
does.
dangle the line.
Yeah.
And I guess by including the playing teams, be it in a whole separate category, I guess that kind of helps it. So yeah, I'm not that much a fan now that I say it.
Hey, so yeah. I mean, that's why that's why they drew up like three different ideas. So the second one the league had proposed is the following: 22 teams, the bottom 10 that miss the play-in, and the eight that qualify for it, and the four playoff teams that lose in the first round will all be included in the lotteries, combining basically what they had said in the first one, where they had mentioned you miss the play-in completely, or you're completely eliminated. But this time, if you make it to the first round of playoffs, you're also going to be thrown in there as well. Excuse me. Will all be included in the lottery and will be ranked accordingly to their record across across only 2 seasons. The last part weighing teams by the record across the prior 2 seasons is how the WNBA weighs its lottery system. Okay. That's interesting. I vividly knew that, but okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Under that system, each team would need to reach a minimum win total floor in each season to mitigate the need to lose every game possible. For example, if the minimum floor of an individual season was 20 wins, a team that went 14-68 would be 20-62 for lottery picks. And if a team wins 40 games one season and 20 games the next, it would go in as 30 wins for the lottery. In the system, the top 4 spots would be drawn as part of the lottery, as is currently. Okay,
All
so
right.
now we think about proposal number 2.
It's much more complicated than the first one, and there's probably a lot of math that I just couldn't really do right now. But
Yeah.
just how it sounds, I do think it sounds good. Again, it's kind of the problem of bringing even more teams into the lottery,
Yeah.
but I think it reaches a barrier like the other side where it actually kind of works out. Having all of the non-playing eligible teams, the playing teams,
Yeah.
and the teams that lose the first round. I mean, that is a lot of teams. It says 22, which really leaves every team that's not a contender part of the lottery. And by that point, I'm like, why would let's imagine a team like, let's say the Houston Rockets, for example. Like they're contenders, but they're like not top. Like they still have a chance. They still can lose the first round, if that makes sense. Like why would they in a system like this just suddenly be like, all right, F it, we're just gonna suck and throw away that chance just for minor lottery odds, right? So I think it reaches the other side of the barrier in that instance. And considering that the system is used by the WNBA, it has credibility.
Yeah, from the WNBA
Yeah,
itself.
and as for how it weighs under 2 seasons, again, I think that's a fine fix. It means it could encourage like long term tanking if that makes sense, but which I suppose that's not a thing that's completely fixable. And the whole like win totals, which it's confusing math. If the minimum floor for an individual season is 20, 1468, the team wins 40 games in 20 games, it would go to 30 games for the lottery. So it kind of averages the two, which I would say I'm a fan of. I think it helps the teams that are consistently bad the most. It wouldn't help teams like the San Antonio Spurs, which last 2 years weren't even like
Not great.
playoff eligible, but now they're the number 2 team in the league. So it wouldn't help teams like them. Like imagine if the San Antonio Spurs needed even more help in getting
Yeah.
another rookie in the year. Like that can't happen
No,
under the system.
definitely.
So I'm a fan of that. I still think it encourages tanking among the bottom of the barrel teams, the ones that consistently suck over a long period of time, like the Nets or the Wizards. But I feel like it kind of clears the way for the middle ground teams for that to be fine.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons I like this system.
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, it has credibility behind it, and you know that the WNBA currently uses that. So it will be interesting how both of the new teams that are coming into the WNBA, the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo, will be picking because I mean they just got done recently with a weighted draw of which team is picking which in the expansion draft, but also in the WNBA draft. The Portland Fire selecting sixth overall in the WNBA draft. Toronto will be selecting seventh.
Mm-hmm.
And then Portland will be selecting first in the expansion draft, while Toronto will be, selecting second overall. It would be it would be definitely interesting to see how the NBA itself would be implemented or have this more, I guess, complicated process
Yeah.
sound interesting.
Yeah, they would like again. This system looks like it's a bunch of complicated math,
Yeah.
and if they were to better explain like I feel like there's different. I don't know. This is how my brain works, but it kind of works in like categories. Like I feel like there's 3 types of teams in the NBA. There's the contenders, there's the play-in teams, and the borderlines that won't win the championship, but are in a spot where they can in the future. And then there's the tankers. I feel like the solution helps the bottom 2 tiers, but we need to see exactly how it would help each specifically, or like how teams would move between them in a sense. Because the 2 season things means that teams doing like lottery math or whatnot to decide like, do we tank a little bit more? They need to look at more games to do so. Which I feel like that's gonna have consequences beyond what I can think of in my head right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, we'll see, but I'm not really like I this idea doesn't sound bad, but it also for us viewers and trying to do the math for people who are like math whizzes and all that, I feel like it just become too
I
complicated and all
mean,
that. So who knows?
again, I do have hope that the NBA can make it.
Yeah.
I think it will be pretty easy for viewers when they learn it and when it's presented in a way. But again, this is just an idea.
Hmm.
There's a lot of blanks to fill, and questions to be answered, which should make things more clear in the future.
Yeah, very true. And then the last proposal they came up with in their Board of Governors meeting was a 5-on-5 method. In this one, the same 18 teams from the first concept, the bottom 10 that missed the play-in plus the 8 that make it would be entered into the lottery. The teams with the 5 worst records would then all have the same odds, with them descending from there, and there would be a lottery draw for each of the top 5 picks in the draft. All those 5 picks are selected through would be another lottery drawing from the remaining 13 teams. If any of the teams with the 5 worst records didn't land one of those top 5 spots, like last season, when the first, so say the Jazz, the Wizards, and the Pelicans, worst records all moving back to 5th, 6th, and 7th, respectively. The lowest they could wind up in the second lottery drawing would be 10, preventing a bad team from falling too far down the draft board. So basically, how do I put this? Basically, it seems like you're just taking the first idea, like it's saying, and then instead of having... Yeah, go ahead.
And just like slightly changing up the numbers a little bit is what I would say.
Yeah, and just having more of, I guess, an equal odds percent chance of picks being obtained through the lottery.
Yeah, I mean, this method, I feel like it's similar to what we have now, at least like an execution, where the 5 teams all had the same odds, which means the worst team in the league would only have a 1 in 5, but I guess a little less than a 1 in 5, due to draft lottery math, to get the top pick. And we've seen for the past couple draft classes where the worst team in the league doesn't get the number 1 pick. That almost never happens anymore. So it's somewhere on that front. Again, it kind of builds a gate to encourage teams to gun for the bottom 5 spots. So what would it be, a team that's just probably outside of that? Maybe like the Bucks or something like that. It would give them motivation to just try and tank a little bit harder. But again, as if you place barriers where odds increase, teams that are edging on the barrier will always go for that, and that's not great. And teams within it will fight to stay there. As for, again, the lottery odds, like the math it's a lot of mental math that wouldn't be able to do in my head, but I do. In fact, I would actually say guaranteeing odds better. As for like if one of the 5 teams drops only to 10, I feel like in a sense I'd almost encourage it more, because the more guaranteed good odds are, the more teams are likely to go to that. Now, it does counteract it by adding more teams equal odds to get the top picks. So this option is the closest to overall flattening the odds. But I feel like it's not quite. It's kind of in an awkward spot where it's too much like the current system, but also I think it's a little bit too much, at least on the bottom end. That's what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, out of all these 3, I mean, which one? You like the second one?
I like the second one personally.
Second one?
One, it's proven by the WNBA.
This is true.
It includes more teams in the lottery, which means the barrier is wider for where you would want to tank, and it includes more. It's more time. Teams like the Spurs wouldn't be able to. Now, this one raises the most questions because it's the most complicated, and we'll have to see the specific math and how to work in practice, and maybe using real examples of how the teams in the league currently are, like hypotheticals. But I'm a fan of that solution.
Okay. Yeah, I think personally I'm a fan of number 2 as well. Like you said, it has to do with the math, so we'll have to see what it looks like on that end, but otherwise I think it's pretty solid. You know, it's backed by the WNBA, as they currently use that drafting process when they are doing their annual draft in the summer. And it would just be interesting to see how the NBA would take that on, if they were to do that. So yeah, no, I would be in favor of number 2.
All right.
So yeah, on to some other news. Oliver, would you like to take away on this one? The 65 game rule might be changing.
Yes. So obviously, we've seen this discourse about the 65 game rule, where players would be need to be eligible to get awards through the 65 game rule. And because of the recent injury of Cade Cunningham, it basically cuts the talent pool for MVP, among other awards, even lower than it already is. And there's an article by CBS Sports that outlines possible solutions, and let's cover them right here. So the first solution is to eliminate the rule entirely. The NBPA, the Board of Governors, they collectively bargained for the rule. There's hardly indication that it's important as much as something the players would really be willing to concede. It is. I will say this is a very wordy article. I will try not to read all of it. But yeah, they basically just suggest not removing a rule where teams or players must fill a specific game quota, instead like stat quota in a sense, or just not do it entirely. I think that's a very extreme solution because again, that would be it could open the gateway where a player who's only played like half the season or even less but did really good would be able to win it. And again, I think that's unfair to the longevity consistent players. So what do you think of a rule like that?
Yeah, I feel like I don't I don't dislike the idea of them getting rid of entirely, but it is also pointless of how they argued for it like years ago to have it be brought into the league and be like, okay, well, if that's the case, and say Jokic missed a lot of time, or let's take it back to when Joel Embiid won MVP. Imagine the many times he was out during that season and missed all of the eligibility of those games, then he wouldn't have been MVP. It would have went to someone else.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point. The 65 games is too much. But again, I don't think I like eliminating it entirely, which is a good segue to the next solution this article covers, which is to slightly lower it to 58 games. It's a very subtle difference, but 58 games covers 70% of the season. It's very simple. It would allow eligibility for a couple more players currently in the season that are edging on not being able to get it. I think 58 is still a little bit too small. It's only a 7 game difference that solution. And I mean, yes, changes change. There's some math behind it, but I think it's still too big of quota to meet. That's
Something
still
that's too
about
big.
like I mean, I'm trying to do the mental math. That's like every game up until like the beginning of March,
Yeah.
I think.
Or maybe even like before the All Star break, maybe.
The All-Star break is about halfway, I think.
Okay.
I mean, that's just mental math. So I think that's still a bit too big. Personally, I would make it like 50% of the games, so like
50.
41 games. I think that's a fair quote in my opinion. Um yeah. Here's solution number 3. Base eligibility on minutes rather than games played. So though like one of them is Wembanyama, for instance, would have to play 639 minutes. Or okay, no, this is just about like examples, Tyrese Maxey and stuff. But yeah, basing it on minutes, I feel like it's still kind of the same problem because you can only play so many minutes and still be an effective player. Like
Especially
you
with the
can't
whole tracking of the plus and minus minute.
like I'm sure there's stats out there about how many minutes all the top stars in the league right now play. I'm sure it's hovering around like 30 to 35 a game,
Yeah.
and that's not that much of a change between the stars. Even if you were gunning for an award but were out for a couple games, greatly setting off your deficit, I think it would be really bad. And I'm sure every party involved would agree. It would be really bad for a player if they were to just like play 48 minutes a game just to gun for an award. That could lead to worse injury, and it would just lead to the player declining even more. And I think that's just a dangerous precedent to set. So I still think it should be based off of games, not minutes.
Okay.
Also, that could also mean like, let's say it could also lead to like an extremely consistent player that never gets injured, playing 82 games but only playing very limited minutes. But also, it could be someone like, let's say there's a player out there that plays like 40 minutes a game, which I know that's not the case. But yes, like it kind of makes the deadline even tighter in a way. So I don't agree with that decision.
Okay. And then another one that they're saying here, they're saying here entirely is not minutes.
It's I'll say it. It's
a difference
it
between
is
long
number
absences and short absences.
Yeah, that's fair. I saw this article earlier today, and I thought it'd be interesting to discuss. So I'm kind of delving deep into it for the first time. I guess that's fair. Where it is kind of unfair to players who get a devastating injury that they have no chance of recovering from. But it would give players the chance with minor injuries, like let's say Danny Avdia was somehow in the MVP talks. And like we know he had a back injury earlier this year, which he's now recovered from, where he could do what he could have been doing right now and just like go back into games again. And it's really up to a player choice. But it says here at the end, it would force players to come back to award hunt, which again could be dangerous. I feel like it's kind of I don't really like how these solutions encourage players to push themselves
Mm-hmm.
because again, it should like okay, I'm gonna say it at the end, but I have my own thing that I don't think is said in any solution in this article. I'll say it at the end, but again, I don't think having a deadline or a minimum for players to push because I've noticed this with a lot of the discussions we have on this podcast. But
Mm-hmm.
if there's a quota to meet or whatever, everyone near that is gonna do whatever they can to push and make it depending on how much they want it. And like especially for awards, I think that it's rewarding to risk your body just to play like 3 more extra games, you know.
Right.
I mean it depends on the player, but I wouldn't want to endanger players like this. This is why I hate the minute rule. Like, I think the short absence one is better than the minutes, but still.
Yeah.
What do you think about that solution?
I feel like it makes sense in a way, but at the same time it's like what happens if a player tends to miss a longer absence,
Yeah.
How would they still even be be eligible for the award anyways? So like say theoretically, give me a player, Oliver, just
Like any
just as an
player in
example.
the NBA?
Yeah, any player in the NBA as an example.
Anthony Edwards. Why not?
Anthony Edwards, why not? Okay. So just say, like, imagine like Anthony Edwards were to have played before the All-Star game, gets injured though during the fourth quarter before, the All-Star game happens. Coming out of the All-Star, after the All-Star game, during the All-Star break, I should say. Excuse me. That they would he would let's theoretically say he would happen to miss ever since the All-Star break.
Mhm.
The real question being, would he be eligible for like MVP or clutch player of the year or something along the lines of that? The answer would probably most likely be no, because you're spending a lot of time you know missing the eligibility, because it's saying here that you have to be at least 60 games total instead of 65. So if he missed over 60 plus games, then he wouldn't have been eligible for said awards. So
Yeah,
it
I
really
mean,
brings into question.
yeah, I would generally say that's the thing to consider. There's one more solution this covers, which I guess isn't a solution, but a thing to consider, is to scale it depending on the award. And I mean, that's a discussion you could do where bigger awards like MVP should get more games than smaller awards like All NBA third team or whatnot.
Yeah, all the NBA, you make the all NBA, all defensive, so forth,
And I
so on.
mean, yeah, I would agree for smaller awards. I think it should be more forgiving. I would say I feel like maybe I could be wrong, but I think the smaller awards, like let's say most improved or all NBA third team, there's a bigger pool that could be a part of it. Like there's really only like 5 people in MVP talks right now,
Yeah.
but there's a lot more in an all NBA third, but I mean that's because it's a team. So maybe that point doesn't stand. But anyway, I think there should be a little bit of tier going on. Yeah, I want to pose like a solution that I had because I've been thinking about this for a while. First of all, what I would do to tackle this is I would have a
Yeah, go
game
ahead.
minimum and I'd make it very forgiving. I would put it somewhere around 40 games, which is just under 50% of the season. It's enough where the player has the player gets the time they need to show off their skills, but not enough where like for Cade Cunningham, where a player gets injured in the middle of March and then they can't make the rest of the season, therefore they're out. If a player is consistent for at least half the season, like if the player is consistent, let's say up to the All Star break, then I think they're deserving of an award. And it wouldn't allow people who've barely played any games to get awards. So first of all, that's the deadline, and also I'm not entirely sure the formula the NBA uses to determine winners for award, but I'd also sort of consider totals, like season totals for MVPs, because we've seen players like Luka Doncic have an explosive run right now over the past couple weeks. And I think that should be rewarded. And I guess this segues well into the MVP talks, which we were going to get to. But what I was going to say is, if a player like, okay, here's a hypothetical. Let's say a player for a season averages like 25-7 or whatnot, just like really good, but not quite number one. Like, there's one player in the league better than that, right? But then suddenly one part of the season, they have a hot run, which leads to an injury where they're out for the last 20 games of the season. And at the end of the day, that counterbalances the totals, right? Like they played as if they scored 20 points every single game. I think that should still be rewarded, even if it wasn't the most consistent, like the most great performance of all time. So that's how I would consider awards. Do you have any thoughts on that sort of solution?
I honestly, I feel like that sounds good to me, but I mean, I don't like the whole idea of like, I guess, limiting or whatever, the awards. Like, it also just depends on the award itself, like you were saying. So, like, if
Yeah, I mean,
take the defensive player of the year. How many games could a big man miss to be eligible for said award anyway,
I would have to look at specific cases of players who were really good and
Okay.
missed bits of the season. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like let's say like there was a big man in the league that was the best of all time in their era, and they get injured in December and missed 3 quarters of the season. Would they be eligible? And I feel like that's not enough time. Like I feel kind of like a dick, and I feel like I'm playing devil's advocate, but I feel like there has to be at some sort of minimum.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
sure.
let's say let's say Nikola Jokic, for example. He got injured I think in December, right? Let's say
Yep.
that injury was worse and he was out for the rest of the season. So he ended up playing like what, 30 games or so.
Something like that, yeah.
But now we have Victor Wembanyama who's played way more games. But let's say Victor
Boy.
Wembanyama was slightly worse and only averaged like 15 points a game or whatnot. Or like Victor Wembanyama, or okay, that's a bad example. Nikola Jokic for the season, let's say his injury was bad, but he was really freaking good. A triple double every single game, like 30 points, like he's out of his mind. And then he gets injured, and then Victor Wembanyama comes in and averages slightly smaller numbers, still very impressive, but slightly smaller. But for the rest of the season, in my opinion, I would give the MVP award to Victor Wembanyama because he's shown more consistency, and I value consistency as I value that in a player. So now, would you? Now, if Jokic continued those numbers, like if people would be discussing if he didn't get injured, would he continue that? I guess that's his own thing, and I feel like that's the argument to why you would give it to Jokic. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, he would have continued it over the rest of the season,
Yeah.
but I mean, I feel like a dick saying it, but like he didn't like. I value like consistency. That's what I have to say. I
All
mean,
right.
that might be a hot
That
take, but
that may be. Who
and then
knows?
that's why I say like I can accept like a 30 game limit where a player
Yeah.
could play up until like the new year. Let's say that would be about like 35 games. I think
Yeah.
I would accept that quota.
All right. I mean, yeah, we'll just have to see what happens, Like, what is the league going to do? Also addressing the whole tanking issue with the 65 game rule limit. Are they going to retweak it? Are they going to eliminate it completely? Or who knows? So I guess we'll have to just stay tuned for that. Good work for the front offices of each team and the board of governors to come up with these things, so that us as the viewers and or fans of each franchise will be like, okay, that makes sense. On to some other news. We'll go into our MVP discussion now, since we kind of segued through that.
Yeah, I did briefly mention it.
We currently have the MVP ladder of the top 10 players in the league right now who are eligible, or who are eligible or who are in the talks of possibly winning the 2025 MVP. Or is it 26? 26? My fault. And some of the top names will go off of the board here and, each say why they have their case of why they think they should win MVP. All from NBA.com, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This is all from March 27th, so about
2 days ago.
2 days ago, thank you. We'll start off with number 1. We got Victor Wembanyama. He's currently last week was ranked number 3. Currently averaging 24, 11, and 3. His case to win MVP is transforming into a historic defender in such of a short period of time. Usually that's a tougher part of the game for a young player to master. Wembanyama is different in that he entered the league with solid defensive initiatives, and coupled with his elevated size is part of the big impact in the third leg of this season for him. Had 17 blocks in his last 3 games, averaging as many blocks per game this season as the Utah Jazz, the whole entire team, which averaged 3.9 blocks or 3.8 blocks per game, followed by Denver, who is averaging 3.9
with Nikola Jokic, which we'll get to.
Yes, and the Milwaukee Bucks also tied at 3.9.
With the Greek Freak.
My gosh. And he's only averaging under 30 minutes a night. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. I mean, then a lot of people. I would say I was kind of shocked when I first saw Victor Wembanyama because we've been so used to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being on top. But I will say,
Oh, yeah.
I think it's very deserved if Victor Wembanyama wins MVP because
Yes.
he's a scorer. For
Yes.
sure, generates a lot of offense, but his real power comes in his defense. I think it will be a complete. I will be very shocked if he doesn't win DPOY at the very least.
At the very least.
I mean, I would say there's like an 80% chance he wins that, but not maybe even more. I don't know, but
I think that's pretty much a lock for him, to be honest.
I get yeah. I would say it's a lock, but like the fact that he's so tall and lanky allows he's a cheat code on defense. The fact that he averages 3 blocks a night, I don't think many other players in the history of the NBA have been able to do that. And
Not
I mean,
as of recent, no. I
No.
mean, I'll even throw this wild statistic in here. He would be the first ever MVP at this young stage of his career, other than Derrick Rose back in 2000.
Derrick
Just
Rose, wow.
imagine that.
That
He would
would
only be
put-
the second other player just to win the MVP
That would
based on
I mean,
that.
I think that would put Victor Wembanyama in like one of not the GOAT talks, but like
No, but
one of the top tiers of GOAT, one of the top GOAT tiers in the NBA.
yeah, like one of the
And
top
he's only
all-stars in this current league that we are seeing.
and he's still, assuming he stays healthy, he's still got a long way to go.
That is true.
Which,
'cause
I
his
mean,
body
that
can
is the
break
worry
down
I
at
have
any
about him.
point. Yeah.
Just considering they call him the alien after all because of we've never
His
seen
lengthy body.
we never really see a body type like his in the NBA that often.
No.
So cherish it while we have it. But yeah,
Yes.
blocks are like, it's funny how they blocks are a very difficult thing to achieve in the NBA for most people. And I mean, they're important. I mean, they say defense wins championships. And
Yes.
I think for that reason the Spurs are contenders. So yeah, I feel like I don't know if I'd put him at number one quite yet, but
No.
I would support him winning MVP. I think the case is good.
I mean, is it fair to say, I might be glazing too much, but is it fair to say that Victor Wembanyama could already be in the talks up there as like an all-time San Antonio Spur with like Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan?
I mean, I feel like the Spurs have been a relatively stacked team in their history. But yeah, I would say Victor Wembanyama. I think he's already a top 10 Spur at the in the present, and I think if it continues, he could breach the top 5 or 3.
Okay.
So I would put him in the top 10 Spurs right now.
Top 10.
I
All
wouldn't put
right.
him top 5 yet.
Okay.
But yeah. With
Okay.
that, let's move on to number 2.
Number 2, Shea
Shea Gilgeous Alexander.
Gilgeous-Alexander. His case? Well, let's see. Never. Why
The
did
game
my
is
Go ahead and
Yeah,
read it.
I'll read it. The game has never seen a guard average 30 points and do this so efficiently. Taking that a step further, very few big men who average 30 have been this efficient. Gilgis Alexander has the most 30-point games in under 30 minutes per game and the least turnovers per game by a 30-point scorer. That also reflects his historic efficiency. Essentially, he rarely costs his team whenever he has the ball, either from missed shots or mistakes. That translates into winning. He is shooting 72% over his last 4 games and has 30 or more
Holy
points in
cow.
41 games, second to Doncic.
Wow. Okay.
So, efficiency is the name of the game for SGA.
Che. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, I want to address the elephant in the room, and that's the free throws. A lot of people criticize him for being a free throw merchant.
This is
Again,
true.
and I would say part of that does go to his efficiency, because I don't. I mean, maybe I'm just completely wrong about this, but aren't missed foul shots not counted? Maybe I'm completely wrong about that.
I
I'm
think
gonna
they
look it up. Or missed. I'm gonna look it up. Shots. If I'm wrong about this, then I mean you can make fun of me, but I feel like actually are missed. Okay, I'm putting my phone down for a moment. Are missed shots counted in stats? It doesn't look. No, it doesn't look so.
really. Huh. I thought they would
Well, I
count
mean, it
it.
makes sense to me.
But I guess that, yeah.
I mean,
Now that I
okay,
think about it,
I don't know.
maybe.
That would require more research. I know we stayed quiet for a moment, but anyway, free throws are a thing to consider. I don't think that discredits him. Even without free throws, he'd still be averaging like 20 points, a game, which is still, I think, MVP level. And then again, it says he's efficient, and he doesn't turn the ball over that much, which is surprising, and I think that's important to consider.
Hmm.
Um, and it and maybe this is a weird way to think about it. In that sense, it's kind of a defensive thing. Turning over the ball helps is very bad, like defensively. It allows the other team to score. Maybe that's a weird thing for me, but I would still keep Shea at number one. I think.
Okay. He's currently averaging 31, 4, and 6 at the moment.
Yeah. So I mean, he's a scorer, unlike the person below him, which we could get into.
Mr. Jokic, the
Who
Joker
averaged
himself. 27, 12, and 10. His case, after being a rare and brief slump following his injury absence, Jokic has resumed a pace that only he can keep, as in being a triple-double threat every night. The last 3 games in particular were classic, if typical Jokic. 23-point triple doubles in all 3. In his most recent game, he nearly went 20-20-20. He was one of the only 3 players to drop that stat line. Holy cow. Also to consider this about his recent stretch of games, in the last 2, he has 36 assists and just 3 turnovers. Both were part of a back-to-back for the Nuggets across the time zone. All told, Jokic is poised to become the first player to lead the league in rebounds and assists in the same season while finishing top 6 or 7 in score.
I mean, listen, I
Yeah,
would
he's a free throw merchant.
personally, just based off of what I like, I would put Jokic at number one in MVP. Now I know voter fatigue is the thing. He already has like I think 2 MVPs. So I mean that's the thing to consider. So maybe I wouldn't give it to him just to give other players a chance.
Yeah.
But holy shit, the fact that he averages a triple double and is on pace to maybe be the first player to lead in rebounds and assists is incredible. No big man has ever been like him where he generates a lot of offense, but also does stuff defensively by getting the rebounds. So I think that alone, I would consider that MVP material. Where would I put him in my leaderboard? I would probably put him number two. No, I would either keep him at number three or number two, considering voter fatigue. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm happy with number three.
3.
Where he is right now. So that's my opinion. Number four is Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
So the thing about Luka Doncic, 33.6 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 8.3 assists. His case is that he's the league's leading scorer, nearly averaging a triple double, and is ripping through a torrid march with games of 60 points, 50 points, and through 40. He's averaging 40 points over his last 11 games.
Holy
and
cow.
he's elevated the Lakers to a lofty spot, the 3 seed in the West, and a potential home court advantage in at least the first round of the playoffs. One reason for the surge is that the Lakers' defense and Doncic's defense has improved since the season began. He's averaging 2.5 steals over his last 11 games, which shows growth in Doncic. He didn't always put defense first, partly because he burns more energy than most on offense. Now, this was the thing that was quite controversial about Luca getting number four. This was the controversial part, I would say.
Go right ahead.
Because if we were to do the MVP just based off of the performances in March, it would undoubtedly be Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a bias where we look at what the league looks like now and don't consider what it looked like in the past. And even then, I still wouldn't put him in. Even then, I still think they're kind of undercutting him a bit. He's top three in MVP overall,
Oh
undoubtedly.
yeah, 100%.
I would probably like if I were in charge of the MVP, what I would probably do is I would move. I don't know. Maybe I would move Shea to four just because he won it last year, and really he's just efficiency, and then move everyone else up one,
Yeah. So
and
like you
or
would
switch.
move.
So
So
Luca would be number two.
Luca would be
Still for me.
2. Shea would
Yeah,
be
here's
going down to 4.
okay. Actually, no. Here's my top four.
Yeah. Say your top 4.
Number one would be
Jokic.
Jokic.
Okay.
Number two, I would say Luca. Number
Luka,
three would
makes
be
sense.
Wembanyama, and number four would be Shea.
Okay. That
That's my
makes
opinion.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
They're all of them are still amazing players. I'm not trying to discredit anyone, and better than the number five on our list, which we'll get into. But yeah, so I would consider if Doncic continues this pace through the rest of the season, which mind you, we still have 2 weeks left of the regular season.
Yeah.
Then I think he actually has a decent chance, and I would root for him. I mean, Luka Doncic is one of the most likable players in the NBA right now. I think,
True. I mean,
because
and it,
everyone has been defending him. Because I feel like the true punching bag in the NBA right now is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I would say Nikola Jokic to an extent. They're kind of the two punching bags in a sense, the MVP race. So, yeah, Luka's likable. I see why people are mad. I would need if he continues this 40-point pace into the end of the season, I would consider him MVP level. I would consider him number one.
okay.
That's what I would
I mean, with Luca, oh my goodness, with Luca, ever since that horrible news of his divorce from his longtime fiance, he's just been on a torching streak.
Dude,
Like
he's locked the fuck in.
He's locked in for the Lakers, and it's just going to show that all the way back, last year, February, that infamous trade, I'm always going to go back to it until he makes it back to the finals, that it's just going to blow up in the Mavericks' face, and that I actually saw a funny tweet from Mark Cuban, the former owner of the Mavericks. had screenshotted a fan screenshotting Nico Harrison at the airport waiting for a commercial flight, and the fan had posted below that said, "Huh, what a drastic difference a year makes when you fly privately and then now you fly commercially." And Mark Cuban's like, "Yeah, but that was his own doing." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that pretty much was." Didn't consult anyone, didn't talk to Mark Cuban at the time, just said, "Let's send the trade to Lakers." Yeah, so it's just gonna go blowing up in his face. But yeah, comments to Luka and him being the monster that he is. I honestly, because I don't think Luka has won MVP at all. I would like to
No.
see Luka win MVP. If you want to hear my top four, here we go. I go Luka, I go Jokic, followed by Wemby, and then keeping Shea at number 4.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I could interchange. That would be my number 4 if voter MVP wasn't a thing. But I still value. I don't know. I just like seeing players that can do generate massive amounts of, because, like, let's be real, the points, rebounds, assists are the main 3 stats in the NBA.
Yes.
And I feel like everything else is kind of a bonus, which in that sense kind of, I would say, almost devalues Victor. But again, defense is half the game. I mean, Jokic plays defense, so I don't know. Luka and Jokic are interchangeable in the top 2 for me.
Okay.
If voter MVP wasn't a thing. But anyway,
Number
good job, Luka. I will say I do root for them for the 3rd seed, where they're likely to play the Atlanta Hawks out of all teams, which
I forgot about that.
okay, a little side tangent. The Atlanta Hawks, and I only really noticed this until the other day but they're like I think they're the hottest team in the league. They're out of the 50-50 purgatory they've been in forever, and they're out of the play-in,
That's
which
surprising me.
right directly after they traded Trae Young, which is
Yeah.
shocking to me. Like, now it's the Eastern play-in pool, if off the top of my head, is like the Magic, it's the Heat, the Bulls are out of there. They're now in the tanking category.
Bulls have been eliminated
It's
as
the
of recent.
it's the Sixers, it's the Magic, it's the Heat, and the Hornets. Which, like, I think 3 of the 4 teams in there was not in the play-in last year. So I mean, a bunch of stuff's happening in the East.
I mean,
But yeah,
to pile on that real fast before we move on to number 5 here, we can't just discredit, what this Atlanta team is doing ever since trading for Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga, ever since going to Atlanta from Golden State, has shown that he is a valuable asset to that team for the foreseeable future at this current time.
yeah.
Doing great things with that said team, and let alone, I think this is one of the guys that's actually in this top 10 list here, Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, and I mean that goes into the lower tiers of the MVP race. Oh, let's briefly cover, because
Yeah,
let's just face it.
let's say number 5.
One of these 4 people is going to win it. I don't think there's a chance where any of the other 6 people on the list, or the 7 people on the list, can win it. Or not 6. I am bad at math. Anyway, here's number 5. Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics.
Ooh.
Last week he was at 6, and now he sits at 5. Yeah, he sits at 28.6 points, 7 rebounds,
And
and
2.
5.2 assists. His case: there's something to be said about executing a takedown of SGA and the West Leading Thunder on Wednesday, and Brown did so spectacularly. Brown had 31 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and a clutch jumper to seal the win. But one game hardly defines his MVP candidacy. Brown has tugboated the Celtics virtually all season during Tatum's injury absence, and has Boston within striking distance of first place in the East, and that guarantees the last few weeks will be suspenseful in that regard, if nothing else. He's 5th in scoring and among the top rebounding guards in the league.
Wow.
Good for Jalen.
Yes. I mean,
I will say, I think I made this clear already, but I don't think he's winning MVP. I think it's going to be one of the top 4. And I don't think anything's going to change that unless if Jalen Brown goes on an insane run rivaling Luca's recent run, then I wouldn't really put him in the talk.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say, we discussed this week one, but the Boston Celtics, now that Tatum's back, I do think they're one of the top teams in the league. I think they have a case to be better than the Pistons right now, especially now that Kate Cunningham's gone. And they have a case to contend.
Yeah.
So
True.
good player on a good team.
I mean, and with Jalen Brown, I will give where credit is due. Yeah, if you've been seeing him from the jump of this season and then into the All-Star game, coming out of the All-Star break, he has been on a tear. Just leading Boston through this whole thing while Jason Tatum's been recuperating in the shadows, and then the one punch duo is back. Of course, Tatum's not at full form just yet, but it will be with due time when he is, because that Boston team will be more scary with Jason Tatum at full power. He's only at half power right now, while Jalen Brown's still at full power.
Yeah.
And the fact that I heard you just read they're in striking distance of getting first in the East. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
Really? Jalen
I don't know.
Brown.
I think it's still a long shot if they do get the one seed because the Pistons have still been pretty good
Yes,
without
Cade.
Cade. And they can at least maintain it. Again, the playoffs are a whole different beast. But yeah, good for Jalen. I'm glad you've moved up to 5. Really
Yeah.
quickly, here's the bottom 5 in the list. Number
Cade
6, Cade
Cunningham.
Cunningham of the Pistons, but now he probably won't get it because of the injury.
Because of the injury, so he'll be automatically eliminated.
Yep, Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks, like we've mentioned.
And I will
I mean,
I will talk briefly about him in just a second after you continue the rest of this list.
yep.
Go ahead.
The number 8 is Kawhi Leonard. And then number 9 is Donovan Mitchell, and then number 10 is Anthony Edwards. And
Okay.
then it also mentions Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, Jalen Duren, Tyrese Maxey, and Jamal Murray. So that's like the top 15 list.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to mention about real fast about Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson, obviously not going to win MVP. We already know that. But what I will say that he's a good candidate for is most improved. I feel like I could see him winning most improved 100%, especially with how his shooting slump was at the beginning of the season. Now he's an average score of like over 20 plus with, a certain point, rebounds and assists. Definitely helping that Atlanta squad that is definitely a centerpiece going to be going forward for Atlanta, but I could definitely see him winning most improved for sure. Another, yeah. I mean, and Kawhi, for example, as well, who's not going to win as well MVP. I could see an argument for him to be comeback with special clutch. Yeah, sorry, how he could win Clutch Player of the Year because of how he's been leading the Clippers from when they did that horrible firing or release of Chris Paul leading into his retirement to now, without Harden, without all those guys. Or Harden's not even there anymore. No, Harden was there though. He was just been doing it all in his lonesome because the Clippers roster without him is pretty garbage, to be honest. And with him, he's kind of boosted it to like an all-time high. So I will give where credit is due for Kawhi that he could definitely be in conversation for clutch. What were you gonna say about Jalen Johnson?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, I do want to point out that I feel like for most improved, it is kind of a two-way race between Denny Avdia and Jalen Johnson.
Yes, I forgot about Avdia a little bit. Yeah, he's also a person that's averaging over like 20 plus a game and having this breakout season compared to how he was playing in Washington. So pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the MVP talks.
Yep. So I mean,
yeah, that's all I have to say on it.
We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see where the rankings will be in the next couple of days. If there's anything massive that change or nothing that at all, or blah 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 blah. We can all for say here that Jaylen Brown is obviously not winning MVP, but I think it's a coin flip here. In my opinion, the coin flip being between Luka and Jokic.
I mean,
And
yeah,
maybe
I
Shea,
think I
but
do hate to say it, but I feel like Wembanyama is kind of. I feel like they wouldn't give him both MVP and DPOY.
yeah.
So I feel like it's a three-man race between Jokic, and Luka.
Okay. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. On to our last topic of this podcast, or episode, I should say. For your wonderful viewers who have not, have not kept up with the WNBA at all or whatever, I definitely sure have. On Friday evening, with breaking news, it happened Friday. ESPN reported that the Connecticut Sun franchise is being sold to a family called the Fortera family, who are the owners of the NBA's Houston Rockets. How about that? In the deal on Friday, they had announced that they will be moving the Connecticut Sun. So this upcoming season for Connecticut fans will be their last in the state of Connecticut. The family is gonna be moving them from Connecticut back to Houston and recreate the Houston Comets. The sale is closing at over $300 million, a record price for a WNBA team, and did not include a relocation fee, surprisingly. You think they would tackle that in there, but they did not. An official announcement is expected to take place, Monday, so we'll see if that does come to fruition tomorrow. But also pending approval from the WNBA's board of governors. But here's the thing that I want to talk about the Houston Comets real quick. The Houston Comets were an amazing franchise. So for anyone who grew up watching women's basketball in the late 90s and the early 2000s, this team won 3 WNBA titles within a span of 3 years.
That's shocking.
And it's unbelievable. So the titles that they had won as part of the original franchise, or originally, were from 97, 98, and 2000. Yeah. Altogether, they won 4, though, but they had a setting record of 3 within a span of a year. I could not believe when I did my research years ago about this. And the WNBA had previously indicated strong interest, surprisingly, in returning the Houston Comets, as they rightfully should. At the league's team expansion announcement in June, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Ellenberg highlighted Houston and owner Tillman Fatera as up next, and the one we have our eyes on. ESPN reported in December that the Rockets ownership was in substantive talks with the Sun to buy the franchise. The sale marks the latest example of the WA moving towards having more teams with NBA owners. Ain't that interesting?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I will say I'm not too versed on WNBA or let alone the WNBA history. But I mean, it seems like the Comets they basically they were a dynasty in the late '90s. And I'm sure they were very popular. Brought in a lot of eyes at the time, I'd imagine, and I think it would be a good decision to bring him back. Now, I feel terrible for the folks in Connecticut because I know Connecticut's small market. You can't, but especially for the WNBA nowadays, that's kind of in a crisis where they need more money and viewers. Connecticut probably wasn't a great place to do that, and I'm sure they'll get much more turnout in Houston. So I think that's a good business decision. I feel bad for the folks in Connecticut.
And Connecticut. I do see Connecticut later on possibly returning,
Trying to get their own team.
get their own team and returning.
Yeah.
But for the meantime, as you want the market to grow for women's basketball, because we had reported last episode that the bargaining agreement had been risen, and the team salaries for each team, including the two that are coming into the league, are being raised up to like $7 million. So instead of, the lowest contract in the league of what, say like a random like free agent player in the market's getting paid 1 year $40K, and then you got Caitlin Clark, getting paid like a 4 year contract or 3 year contract for $285,000. That can now translate over to $1 million, and then for the people who are the free agents for the 1 year 40K, that could go up from 40K to probably like 200K, as an example, or
Yeah.
100. So yeah, so it is quite impressive, and I'm really happy to see that the WNBA is heading into a direction where they're trying to get more exposure to the market and viewership, so that anybody who's been a long time NBA viewer can take their eyes off and say, "Hey, wait a minute, aren't there women who also play basketball?"
Yeah, I mean, I think they're making the right steps. I'm glad they're really introducing so many more markets because I feel like there would be, because I'm obviously gonna watch the Portland Fire when they come, and
Yes,
I might not have
I'm buying
cared
tickets.
I might not have cared if Portland didn't get a team, but yeah, I feel like all these signing of stars and all this movement in terms of locations and whatnot, I think will help. It'll bring entire cities interested, and maybe I hope that'll just hook more people in. Again, there's still some like contract issues they need to settle with the players, but I would generally say the future is looking up for the WNBA, at least on for the viewers side.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see how the team works out in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, with Houston coming back, I mean, it's great for them. Bigger market, it can attract more, bigger, WNBA stars. Yeah, I mean, and when you have a franchise that had won three back-to-back-to-back titles within a span of 3 years, and then all of a sudden just one day gets sold, and then those owners decide to fold the team, is quite astonishing.
Yeah.
The best believe when the Houston Comets were no more in the 2000s, women's basketball for Houston fans were pretty heartbreaking, and now they get their team back. So we'll see what happens. I mean, congrats to Houston and getting their team back. And again, I feel very sorry for Connecticut, but as Connecticut is a small state and doesn't generate that much of a big market to get like a big name over to there, then it does really bring into question, is there is that team meant to still be there? So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, in a perfect world, there's a lot of cities that I even would consider big that I'd love to see with sports teams. Like, for example, I think it'd be really sick to see a team in like Honolulu, but obviously that can't happen. But that's a whole tangent. But yeah, I do feel for Connecticut, but I think the WNBA will be better off.
Yeah, and I think Houston is definitely a way to go to
Yeah,
kind of get the market more exposed and all that. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
and statistically, it shows that Houston is a type of market where they have women's basketball that run through their veins, and they love the sport. So to see
yeah.
it return is gonna be quite amazing.
They're the fourth. I think they're the fourth biggest city in the United States, and they're a massive sports city. They love their sports in Texas. So I mean, we'll see what the turnout will be.
Yeah, who knows? So I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I want to get your opinion on something real fast. So I had mentioned earlier in this episode about the Portland Fire picking sixth overall in the WNBA draft and also picking first overall in the expansion draft. I just wanted to see what your opinion was on that.
Well, I mean, that's good. I unfortunately cannot tell you what players, either in the expansion draft or the regular draft, would be in our hands. But I mean, we would be better off than Toronto, so that's good. Again, we're probably as a team, we're probably gonna suck, just like every expansion draft. But I mean, at least we might be better than Toronto. We're in a better spot than them. And I mean, you said seventh pick or is it sixth?
Sixth. It's the
Sixth pick. Gotcha.
sixth pick. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I do not. Again, like I'm kind of ignorant on the WNBA, but I do not know what the draft prospects would be like, especially for the 2026 draft. For the WNBA. So I mean, 6 is a higher number than 7. So as long as the Portland Fire don't f it up, then I'm happy.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna definitely be exciting for us, because we're long Portlanders, and to see the Fire come back into play is definitely gonna be exciting to see. I'm definitely buying tickets to go see a game, 100%. And
Oh yeah, I'd have to look into that.
yeah, 100%. We'll have to see if our friend Tyler would probably want to do that too, but who knows?
We shall help.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it for this edition of the OD Sportscast. Make sure just to give a listen to the other episodes if you haven't yet. Otherwise, I'm your host, Dak.
And I'm Oliver.
And we'll see you guys next time for another episode of the OD Sportscast.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.